Hey folks, welcome back to another episode from the Vaultcraft SMP. And yep, I'm sick again. Sick enough that I don't sound great, but not sick enough that I can't play Minecraft. And I have got a lot of things that I want to get done. The last episode was the stream day and the big race event, and boy that was a lot of fun. But I'm itching to get back into making some farms again. And in the meantime, with all the vaults I've been running, I've managed to collect quite a few knowledge stars. I have a plan for these 6 right here. Now you see, it's been really difficult for me because I love making farms, and Create is one of the best tools to be able to do that. But there's a lot of people on the server that have Create, and so I've been trying to save myself basically in order to be able to take some other farming mod. And when we look at the big mods here, we've got Create, Thermal, Mechanism, and Botania. And I have some experience with Mechanism, though not with Vaulthunters, but Botania and Create I did in the last season. So I was really thinking to maybe take another mod and learn about it a bit. But I just really like Create, and I know there's some things that I can do on this server to help out with Create. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to take Create, and I'm going to get back into making some more farms this episode. So 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6. And the next one's going to cost 18 if I do that. But for right now, let's take Create. And oh, look at that. I got all the Create transmogs as well. Cool beans. The big question is, what do I want to do now that I've taken Create? Well, it's always about the Vault Altar. And this little greedy cuss sure wants a lot of stuff. Currently, right now, it's wanting a lot of leaves. And our supply of leaves is pretty darn meager, as well as logs. I mean, this may seem like a lot in a lot of Minecraft worlds, but for a modded world, with all of the players playing, no, this is not very much at all. Generally, we're doing pretty good on resources between the botany pots and cagerium and the spawner downstairs and other things that we've got going on in farms that we've created. But logs and leaves, well, we're really lacking in that area. And Create is really darn good when it comes to making tree farms and that kind of thing. And furthermore, once we hit level 40, the altar gets more specific about the kinds of things that it wants. If you look at the leaf block on my altar here, it's changing because it doesn't really matter what kind of leaves you give it. It'll accept any of them. Birch, spruce, jungle, etc. And up until this point, logs were the same way. It would just take any logs. But once we hit level 40, it starts getting specific. It wants only birch logs, for instance, or only oak logs. And so the tree farm needs to not just be any kind of logs, it needs to be every kind of log. Now fortunately, it seems to accept any kind of leaves all the way through the playthrough. So I'll count that as a bit lucky because I don't want to really have to farm 10 different kinds of leaves either. But the logs we can handle. And we've already got several people hitting that level 40 mark, and I'll be there soon. So I think this is probably the most important need that we have on the server right now. Now in preparation for this plan, I came over here to the industrial district and made myself a big platform, and that's where I intend to put all the tree farms. We have plenty of room in the windmill tower because it goes down a long way underneath the ocean surface. But for trees, because they grow big, I didn't really feel like they belonged inside the windmill platform. I do believe that this windmill blade is probably insufficient. I think I'm going to have to expand it, make it a little bit bigger, because I have a feeling I'm going to max out all of the stress units that it's currently creating. I guess we'll have to see. But first things first is I need to make a whole bunch of supplies. Now fortunately, there's a decent amount of supplies right here, and this handy dandy wrench that Swarmy and Shin have left. But this is really interesting. In this version, Create uses a lot less vault resources, although it does use an awful lot of the chromatic iron. Pretty much everything uses this andesite casing, and you got to the andesite alloy onto a chromatic iron block. Chromatic iron is pretty hard to get. I mean, well, initially it was pretty hard to get. Now that we have the chromatic ore rooms and the vaults, it's a lot easier, and thankfully we have a really good supply of it. So I'm going to be using a whole bunch of this stuff in order to make up the supplies that I need. But this is a pretty neat animation. You just hit it with the andesite alloy and it changes into the andesite casings. And the main thing that I need the andesite casings for are the mechanical saws. But since I'm also wanting to collect leaves, I also need harvesters. These mechanical harvesters will collect the leaf blocks as well. But let me just build one up and I'll show you what I'm getting at. So I'm going to start off with the standard create tree farm. It uses a contraption that goes around in a circle to grow and cut the trees down. Start off with a mechanical bearing in the middle, and then a radial chassis on top. Now at this point, a lot of people try to use linear chassis for the side, but you don't have to. Any old block will work. Start with a little super glue, and then throw out some blocks. Just regular old planks are fine. And I'm making this one pretty big because I think we can handle several different tree types with this one machine. And then around in front, or whichever way it's going to turn actually, then we put the saw blades. Easy enough. Now we want an interface, so I'm going to take away a few of these because we also need some storage that can be right in line there, and then the interface can go onto the end. Once I turn it around the right direction, of course. And we have ourselves a very low profile, pretty easy tree farm, and it can handle most of the trees. Some of the trees, though, are kind of picky about their growing environment and how they work, so they're going to need their own contraption. But of course, it's not going to work yet because I haven't tapped into the windmill over here. So that's next up. Now it's a pretty far distance to travel over there, but I think these mechanical belts are going to be the most efficient way in terms of resources to get the motion over there. So let's tap in right here on the first step. And unfortunately, it's not long enough to go the entire way, so I got to break it up into two. We got to do another one right here to bring it over and get that thing rolling. All right. Whoa, boy. Well, for one, it's spinning in the wrong direction, and two, it's spinning really, really fast. It certainly doesn't need to spin that fast, so I got a little bit of tweaking to do. But there we go. It's at least working. Not very well. There we go. That seems like a much more reasonable speed. Ouch. But I just realized something. I forgot the deployers. I think I made my circle a little too small, too. But yeah, I need deployers on the backside of all of this, because otherwise we're not going to get anything planted. There we go. Now we're going to have those be planting the trees. And the storage can go right out here on the end, and the interface can just go right on top of that. So again, it's all super small and compact. Now this is really big. Notice when I'm here, it says it's got a radius of 8, and it doesn't include these two things. So I'm going to need to increase that to 10, and there we go. Now everything is included and going to be spinning around. And let's demonstrate and get out of the way. Yep, there it's all going around. All those deployers are going to be planting trees, and we're good to go. The important part here is that each deployer is going to only be planting one kind of tree. Now obviously the deployer out here on the end is going to have a lot more planting spaces than the deployer here in the middle, and I'm going to have to try to balance that out. With this one configuration, I should be able to get a whole bunch of trees done. Okay, I've expanded the dirt area out just a little bit on this side, and I want to give it a test to see where these things can actually reach. Because when you're dealing with a radius and a circular pattern like this, it's pretty hard to understand where the things will actually reach. And sometimes, honestly, it doesn't make any sense. Like these blocks right here next to the radial chassis, I don't think it can be reached at all, which is why I've got stone there. But anyway, let's give it a shot. Turn it on, and this should be placing a whole bunch of oaks. Not that I actually want this many oaks, but the important part is I know that it cannot reach these squares right here. So cool. I don't have to have the dirt there. Now I just got to finish the pattern all the way around. Well, I think we're all done with this part. I need to get the stuff out of here, of course, once it's done. But we got oak, jungle, birch, acacia, 2 azalea because we're getting close to the inside here, and 2 flowering azalea because we're going to get both azalea and flowering azalea saplings from them. And I think that this will more or less balance out. Now the real question is, when I turn this on, does this actually plant in all of the spots? That is very, very satisfying. Nice. Very nice indeed. And it looks like all of my dirt spots are full of saplings. Now the question also is, will they grow? Are they too compacted? Now, like, the jungles may be kind of picky, and I gotta look that up. But the birches, the oaks, I don't think the acacia or the azalea are. The jungles are my biggest concerns, but we'll let this go for a little bit. Ah, look, we already got a tree. Boom. Easy peasy. Now the output of this is going to be logs and saplings. But remember, I also want to get leaves, and so that's going to have to be another one. Plus, there's no dark oak in here. Dark oak has to be a special format because, you just can't plant them too close together. They get all weird trying to do their 2x2. Looks like one of the jungles have grown and one of the acacias. So we're definitely getting some of all of the trees. Great. Well, I think it's finally done for now. For as simple a farm as this is, there's a lot of nitpicky stuff that goes on. So I geared down this to make it go a little slower, but then once I tapped in for this, I really felt like it was going too slow, and I wanted it to go faster. So yeah, a lot of work went into making all of this connected up. As far as these chests and brass funnels go, this is temporary. Ideally, in the end, we want to use drawers, but I don't have drawers, and I'm going to have to ask Magpie or Swarmy or somebody to come back and set up a whole bunch of drawers over here so that we can store all of the stuff. So, for right now, I've just got a bunch of chests, but I want to get this thing going and see that it's working. Alright, and here we go. That is really quite satisfying, honestly. We should be seeing all of the extras come on out here. Yep, and they're getting picked up into a chest. These brass funnels are really important at this point because they can take a whole stack of stuff, so that's a lot of stuff being unloaded in a very short period of time. Now, if we can actually get some of these things to grow, well, then we can see the logs start to come out too. There we go, our first contestant. Chopped down. Well, we get to see the logs come out. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. I should be able to AFK here, and we should be able to get a lot of logs. But remember, this is only the first part. I got to get the next part set up. So I'll come back when I'm ready to do that. Well, it is the next day in real life, and I was able to do some AFKing here at the farm. It works really well. Partially, anyway. There's a whole lot of wood collected from just a few hours of AFKing, and a whole bunch of stuff that we don't care about, like bananas and sticks. But has anybody noticed my mistake? Because I'm kind of a doofus. It's right there where my cursor is. The azaleas. There are no azalea logs in here. And yes, Vaulthunters has a special kind of log for azaleas, because azalea bushes never grow into trees like saplings. So that is just never going to change. So I might as well change that with a different kind of sapling. So let's turn it off. And while I'm here, actually, I want to put in a clutch. So let's do that and put in a clutch. And now it's, of course, going backwards. I want to put in a clutch so I can disable this farm with some redstone. I guess I'll go ahead and figure that out at another time. I want to show you something else, too. Now, if you're doing this on your own, you may actually encounter this particular problem. Doesn't that just look cursed? That's because when I stopped it and then restarted it, the radial chassis grabbed all of the saplings that were in place and just picked it up and started rotating it around. So, if you ever see this happening, you know the reason. When you stop this contraption, you actually have to remove all of the saplings that are adjacent to the contraption before you start it up again. Or you'll have something like this happen to you too. Alright, with a little bit of rejiggering, I now have this remote redstone link hooked up. So just flip the switch, and the farm turns on, and it's actually going in the right direction. Getting things to rotate in the right direction is the hardest thing about Create, I think, honestly. Well, or one of the harder things. And as far as these deployers and the inner rings here, I think we need to go for some spruce. I think spruce can work as long as I don't put spruce right next to each other. So we'll do some more acacia, another spruce, and then some acacia. And I think that will work. Let's load her up and give it a try. Maiden voyage. That's still very satisfying, even though it doesn't look as good as the azaleas did in there. Alright, well, that's good enough. Now let's see if things actually start to grow. And in the meantime, I can start working on the next little ring and platform. Well, I can see we're actually getting some spruce off of here, and it looks like all of these chests are full. I better take care of this real quick. So yeah, as you can see, we need some better storage here.
Yeah, I'll say. Super full.
Think you can accommodate with some drawers? That would be just peachy keen.
Yep, I've got some 1x1s. I've got two 2x1s and 1 2x2.
All right.
And upgrades as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm thinking each of the log types gets its own, 1x1 drawer, and depending on how many saplings you want, maybe the 2x2 or the 1x2 for saplings, it kind of depends. Apples, probably a 1x1 with lesser upgrades because we don't get so many apples. Oh, so much better. So much better.
Nice.
Thanks so much, Magpie, for coming over and helping out with this. All right, I got the next pad all laid out, and this is all in 2x2 blocks for, guess what? Dark oak. Yep, I'm sure you guessed it. We can't reliably do dark oak over here with all of these different things. It gets a little weird. So I made up a totally separate pad with a whole bunch of 2x2 platforms, but otherwise it's going to be exactly the same machine running over here, and this one's only going to worry about dark oak. So let me build it up, and we'll be right back. Okay, it is done. It's not actually running yet, and I haven't actually tested it. You know what? Nothing like doing a maiden voyage on camera. I have got a whole mess of conveyor belts going on all over the place here. The bottom line is we're going to be taking all the drops out of here, and they can ride along this upper conveyor belt in order to drop back onto the lower sorting system and get sorted out. At least, that's the plan anyway. So, maiden voyage, let's kick off the redstone and see it get going. And a lot of these trees have built up. Now, the 2x2 trees is exactly why I like this design, and it's... Oh. That's a problem. All right, I got to fix that. All right, quick and easy fix, but yeah, we need to put all of these saplings on all of the deployers so that that doesn't happen again. All right, here we go again. Looking much, much better. It will be interesting to see if all of these spots that I have laid out actually get a sapling deployed in them. Although at the moment, I'm not really sure I have enough saplings for all of these spots. But we are getting a lot of dark oak, which is beautiful. And here it should all be going up on the conveyor belt. Very, very nice. And did I put this too far over? I did. I put the conveyor belt a little too far over. All right. Well, that is easy enough to fix. Well, overall, it seems like it's working pretty well, but dark oaks are a little stingy with their saplings, and the random planting is leaving things where they're not going to grow. So I can manually fix some of these. Oh, it also looks like these blocks in the middle here just aren't going to grow at all. That deployer just isn't putting anything in these squares. Okay, well, that's fine. It'll give me a few more saplings to put elsewhere and continue to grow. I don't know if this is actually going to be self-sustaining. The hope is, of course, to get enough saplings out of it in order to actually have it be self-sustaining, but it might not be. I guess I'll have to AFK for a while, and only time will tell. But overall, I mean, it is working as intended. And my little mess over there, it's messy, yes. But again, it's working as intended. But phase 2 done, and I've got a little bit set up here in preparation for phase 3. I guess I will try to AFK tomorrow and see if this thing actually grows to the point where it is self-sustaining. It might not, and that'll be really unfortunate if that's the case. Well, I didn't have to AFK. It just did it after a while I was working on the next phase. Phase 3 is underway. But yes, the dark oak is self-sufficient. We've already got a lot of dark oak logs and dark oak saplings, a nice surplus. Phase 3 is already set up over here. And it's looking a little crowded because I planted some trees. But this is, in essence, a tree farm also. So the basic design is still going to be the same in that we've got the mechanical bearing and an arm of saws that rotate around and deploying saplings. But the big difference here is I'm after leaf blocks. And you're not going to get that with just saws, because we would have gotten that on the original farm. No, we need something else. And I planted these trees in order to give me a rough idea of where the leaf blocks are and where I need to position my sweeper arms in order to harvest them. So the base is all built up as a standard tree farm, but now we need to go tall in order to collect the leaves. So let's place up some of these linear chassis and we'll go all the way up here. This should get most, if not all, of the leaves that these trees have to offer. Now, obviously, oaks grow at different heights, but if I put the harvesters up to here, we should be getting a lot of the leaves. most of them. That's my hope, in fact. So now that I know how tall I can make it, it's time to clear these guys out, because now they're just in the way. So now that that's done, the key to get all the leaves is going to be the mechanical harvester. But we can't attach those directly to the linear chassis like we do with the other things. So instead I get to put down some blocks and we'll carry those with us. Now the harvesters are also used with the crop farms to get wheat and carrots and stuff like that. But they will collect the leaf blocks too. So we need an entire wall of these things to go up the entire distance that we can run into leaves and that we want to try to collect the leaves from. Well, that is a lot of harvesters. Now let's give it a test. Make sure that it actually goes around. You know what? I put those on backwards. Oh, well, that's why we test things. Now let's fix it up and get it going in the right direction this time. There we go. That looks a lot better. Now this will basically get half of the leaves from every tree. Basically, it'll run through half of them until the blades get to the trunk, and then the blades will cut down the tree and the rest of the leaves will get turned into sticks and saplings and stuff. But I want a little bit more than that. So I want to do a whole nother wall of harvesters to try to collect the leaves on the opposite side away from where it's spinning. Also, of course, we need some chests. So let's make sure and put a chest right there in that wall, and we got a chest to go. Can't forget the super glue, which I almost did, honestly. And then let's put another wall of blocks here, all the way around, all the way down, to hold the harvesters for the other side. And honestly, I'm going to have to go make more up. I don't have enough. But I think you get the idea of how this is coming together. There we go. That should do a really good job of taking care of most of the leaves that are available. Ideally, there won't be any leaves available, and there will only be the bare, empty trunks of trees left over to be cut down by this. Now, there will be some leaf blocks there, but by and large, the majority of them should get picked up by all of these harvesters. So that means that this system is not exactly going to be self-sufficient. Now, fortunately, we're producing a whole lot of oak saplings over here, and so that's the next part, is to figure out how to put all the oak saplings into here that we need, and yet still leave room in the inventory for all of the leaf blocks. It's going to take some extra logic. And that logic comes in the form of this stockpile switch that I'm holding in my hand. So when we put the stockpile switch onto the portable storage interface, it can read the contents of this chest that's part of the contraption when they connect up. Pretty darn handy. You've got to look and see how there's one side that has a little face on it. That has to be facing into the portable storage interface. And the interface to this lets us choose little boundaries. So we can move this all the way down. We don't want to have very many oak saplings in here. So let's say 10% of the storage can be oak saplings. And as long as the contents is less than 10% of the storage, then this switch will turn the redstone off. Now, why do we care about redstone being turned off? That's because we're going to have a smart chute that's bringing in the saplings, and that can be enabled or disabled by redstone. So a little bit of redstone right on top of this is actually going to disable the smart chute when the stockpile switch detects that the storage in the contraption has more than 10% of its storage filled with saplings. Kind of complicated, right? I told you so. I'm going to put this as a filter on here so that only saplings will go into the smart chute. And off of the storage interface, we also need a brass funnel in order to unload the gear. But we're going to have to make a filter for that too. And fortunately, we have a little filter object that can be put up here because we can do some interesting things with this filter object. Now, I could go ahead and drag everything over that I want to be included, which would be oak logs and oak saplings and sticks and apples. Or I can turn this into a deny list and only put in the oak sapling. Once I put this filter on, anything that's in this storage system, once they connect up, is going to come out of this funnel, except for the saplings. The saplings will stay inside. And on the upside, the saplings will go into the funnel. The big risk with this is that this could actually fill up with saplings and have no room for anything else, but I don't actually think this is going to happen. So now the next part is to hook up this conveyor belt to bring the saplings over and to take the things away. But first, let's give it a test. So I get to fill this up with some saplings so that as it goes around, it's going to plant the saplings. And when they turn into trees, the harvesters should collect most of the leaves and the saws will cut down anything that's left. Maiden voyage, let's give it a shot. Hey, there we go. We got a lot of those leaves and now it's cutting down the stalk. Nice. And we should be getting some leaves that pop out of here. I wonder why we don't. Oh, I've got it pointed the wrong direction. There we go. Now we got our leaves and logs, but no saplings. And look at that. From that one tree, we got 51 leaves and 5 logs. That's going to produce an awful lot of leaves. It's working out pretty well. Let's get it hooked up to everything else. All right, that is all hooked up, and wow, this is a mess. It really is, but it's working. So let me show you what we got going on here. So this is the main line that puts everything into the drawers. And when it gets done, it comes over here and cycles on up here. And the main purpose for this is to be able to put saplings back into this chest so that they can eventually go back into the contraption. We've got a few in there, and I don't know how many is in there, but our 10% threshold has been hit because this stockpile signal has turned on. And so it's not letting any more of the saplings go into the system, at least not until they get used up. Now this may actually be self-sufficient, and all of this may be in vain, honestly. It may not get used at all. But the plan is, and the hope is, that it's not self-sufficient, that it's not going to get a whole bunch of saplings, although it's going to get some from that big tree. All right. Well, anyway, this is going to pull in saplings, and everything else goes in a pile right down there, which is currently sticks, bananas, and the flowering blossoms from acacia. Now down below here, this funnel is emptying things out, and you see we've got some leaf blocks and some logs that are going back up into this system, which is using the same conveyor that the dark oak forest was using before in order to bring the items into the conveyor belt in order to eventually be sorted. Which, by the way, this is so productive that I turned it off because we've got 16,000 dark oak, and that's more than enough for a while. It filled up the drawer. So anyway, we've got a lot of stuff going on here, but the bottom line is, out of phase 3 of this farm, we're getting the leaf blocks, we're getting the logs, and it's going back into be the storage area where it can be sucked into one of the drawers over there. And all of the trash that we don't need is getting thrown right here. Eventually, these things are going to fill up. I mean, it did with dark oak already, but eventually all of these other kinds of logs are going to fill up as well. And they're not going to get picked up by the drawers, which means they're going to come up this conveyor belt line and get thrown onto this pile, just like everything else. So phase 4 of this is that I want to set up a bulk blasting system right here, which is going to do 2 things. It's going to destroy any of these things that we don't need, like the sticks and blossoms, and it's going to take any extra logs and turn it into charcoal. And that I want to also be filtered back up into the rest of the system. Got it? It's a complicated system, yes, but the system is easily broken down into understandable parts, and so that's what I'm trying to do here. Just take it one part at a time. Now, once I'm all done, if somebody were to come along and look at what I've done here, they're probably going to be pretty darn confused. All of these conveyor belts are pretty sloppy. It looks like spaghetti, quite honestly. But it works. And I guess that's all we're after at the moment. It doesn't have to look pretty, does it? Well, now that this is done, it is all in vain. The best laid plans, huh? It just doesn't work. I know I did this last year, but apparently Iskall and team decided to take away this particular recipe. So if I put some logs on this depot and get them bulk blasted, they just straight up disappear. We don't get any charcoal. Dang it, that was one of the really easy and convenient things that we could do, and I really liked it. So, oh well, I mean, it's still going to destroy all the extras. You know, all the extra saplings and bananas and sticks, they also burn up. So it's still valuable because it eliminates the waste and there's really no lag after a bit. But at the same time, I really wanted to be able to get charcoal out of this. But I suppose that's a farm for another day. We do have a pretty proficient bamboo farm and can make an even better bamboo farm with Create. And with the bamboo, we could fire a bunch of furnaces and smelt up the logs into charcoal that way. And that still works. So I guess that'll have to happen at a later date. But for right now, I'm pretty happy with these farms that I've managed to build up. We got a lot of logs coming in, completely maxed out on the dark oak, and look at that, we've already got 3,500 leaves in here, which is more than enough than we'll need for a while. Wow, that was a lot of explanation and farm video, huh? I actually didn't intend to make the entire video about this farm, but that's where the process went and that's what happened. So leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. Was it a bit too much? I'm kind of afraid it was. But anyway, I really want to hear what you have to say. And I certainly hope you found it useful. And that leaves just one more thing in the video, and that's put the comments on the wall. But first, there's the usual plea for a like or subscribe. I've got a goal to reach 500 in the next couple months. I had said by the end of the year, but I think we can do it in the next couple months. So please, if you found the video useful, give it a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Our first comment comes from Rabid Rabbit. Yep, that rabbit from here on the server. Saying, I had a blast in the stream day. Mario Kart racing was definitely the best part. I don't know, I rather liked seeing all the people get blown up by the beds, or that one time I punched you off into the void. That was fun. And by the way, everybody, go give Rabbit a big round of congratulations for making 1,000 subs. Way to go, bud. You've worked hard for it, and I'm really happy for you. The next comment comes from Granny Watching You. Love the armor. Thanks for the tips. Well, thank you so much. I feel like I got the armor right, and I'm really glad that you like how it looks. I might change it up later on if I get some really cool transmogs, but for right now, yep, that's my set, and I'm going to stick with it. So there we go, another video in the bag. Thanks so much for sticking with it to the end. Remember, be excellent to each other, and I'm out.